Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Chinese culture.
It's our hope
Welcome to
and
the
intention
panel discussion.
that many of
the
these
next
new
TLD
TLDs
expansion,
will be in
exploring
local
opportunities
scripts.
in APAC. In this section today, we will discuss the topic that was related with the expansion of DNS. As we all know, that first round of a new gTLD program, which was launched in 2012, expanded the number of top-level domains to over 1,400 TLDs today. And ICANN is moving to launch the subsequent round of the new gTLD applications and expand the DNS again. So there's a lot of discussion in the community and also to the broader audience about well, the APAC region will benefit from even more top-level domains, and how can our industry work together to prepare and catch the opportunity that might avail, contributing to the region's digital transformation. And today we feel very honored to have 4 experts in this industry to share their thoughts and insights today. And they are Mr. Michael Riddle, the Chief Executive Officer from CentralNIC. And we have Michael Fleming, which is Regional Directors of North America at the GMO Brand Security, Inc. And we have Kathy Zhang, who is the DNS Operation Manager from China Internet Network Information Center, CINIC. And we have Emmer Hosing, which is Managing Directors of IMHOS Ltds. And we will have presentations from the 4 distinguished guests for around 15 minutes each. And then we will probably have 20 to 25 minutes, and we will open the floor for questions and discussions, interactions with the audience on site, and also from the audience in the web chat. And then let's have a round of applause for all speakers first. Thank you. And the first, let's welcome Mr. Michael Riddle for his speech, and then he will present to us how to help new gTLD customers to make educated choices. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, and I guess I did the clicker. That got lost, but finally we've retrieved it. So thank you everyone for joining this presentation. I'm really excited. It's the first time that I present in China or in Asia at all. So really exciting, and thank you all for being here. So whereas CentralNIC does a lot of things, and today is generating most of its revenue with online advertising, our DNA is through and through domain names. This is how this has all started, and we carry this heritage with us into the future. And today I will present seven slides to you. Starting off with the question whether the APAC region needs more NTLDs, what the benefits of NTLDs are for the ecosystem, the benefits for the customers more specifically, how we can all who are together in this room and our network can work together to make this work. And then we will have a brief excursion into what I think is a very, very Asian subject, super apps, something which has not really evolved as a trend in Europe or North America. And then, of course, to refinance my travel cost, we're also going to speak how CentralNIC can help in all these things. So, the first question, does the APAC region need more NTLDs? When we look at the land mass that Asia Pacific takes up and at the population, it is very much underrepresented. In the last ICANN round, only 303 out of the 1,030 applications were actually submitted from Asia. And we can only wonder why that is. Generally, the pickup of NTLDs has been very strong, in particular from mainland China, who in the beginning of the NTLD program has been by far the largest market, but in the meantime it has a little bit cooled off, and the two largest NTLD registrars from Asia, being Alibaba and GMO, together make up around 15% of all NTLDs, which in the beginning was more like 50% of the NTLDs. And one answer could be that maybe there are not really enough NTLDs that are specifically targeted to the Asia-Pacific region. If you just look at the statistics of these two largest local registrars, it is .top and XYZ in the case of Alibaba, and then XYZ followed by CFD in the case of GMO, and literally none of the IDN strings that have been registered for Asian countries, and we will see a case study in a few minutes, really makes it into the top 10 either globally nor with the Asia-centered registrars. And actually, there are some good examples. So this, I hope I pronounced that halfway correctly. So G, standing for mobile phone, is a good example where people have endeavored to actually launch a top-level domain that's specifically targeted to the Mandarin-speaking market, and for a very large vertical, being mobile phones. Let's not forget the most valuable company in my market cap, being Apple, is all today built around mobile phones. And here it is surprising that there is not more pickup of this market. There are probably enough shops selling mobile phones. There are enough mobile phone operators, enough companies that work somewhere in the mobile phone area, whether it's mobile phone repairs or similar services. And this could be an interesting question to explore later in the Q&A session of this panel discussion. And so G is not the only example of a specific Asia targeted or APAC targeted domain. There's MOE and quite a few others which are either centered on certain major metropolitan areas like Tokyo and Osaka, and it can actually help to micro-target your market. But potentially we've all made, as an industry, a mistake, which is, when I still remember the time around the first application round in April 2012. Let's just remember this, 11 years since the last application round was executed. And at that time there was a strong conviction that you would actually need to bet on keywords. And with SoG, we've just seen an example where someone bet on a keyword, because people were believing that Google would give this keyword in the top-level domain a very strong weight in their search algorithm. And while there is some evidence that probably it is a factor in the search algorithm among 200 or so other factors, it seems to not be a very strong one. And this is why the strategy to have like vertical specific top-level domains has not really worked out. Whereas .xyz, as in the meantime, the most successful new top-level domain, at least in numbers of domain name count, has basically stolen the show. And I can still remember, I think it was the Domain Fest, a conference that unfortunately has been discontinued in 2013, when Daniel Nagari went on stage and said, "Look guys, I will win this game because I have registered the most generic top-level domain you could ever think of." and everyone disagreed, and you could literally see virtual tomatoes and eggs flying on stage trying to hit him. But he clearly had a vision that a generic domain name works very well. And so that could, for example, be an approach for the next round, to think about more Asia-Pacific focused generic names, or use IDN versions of generic names that have been successful in the rest of the world. And despite all this, despite all the noise around new top-level domains, until now they only make up 7.7% of all top-level domains. We learned this morning in John's speech that domain names are now like 40 years old. The ICANN system is now 25 years old. So this is the result after 11 years, which is 44% of the lifetime of ICANN, and almost 30% of the entire age of the domain system as a whole. So I think we can all work together to make this NTLD topic even more successful in the future. And what we've not put on this slide is, we as an industry, we must innovate and make sure that our DNS remains the prevailing DNS. These numbers exclude the new blockchain-based domain names, which is probably for the first time in our industry that an alt-root gained some traction. And we should really observe this and see how we can maintain universally acceptable or accessible internet, and avoid that there are collisions because people just register a new.com under some kind of blockchain. And this is why it's important that we have these conventions in order to align, to make sure that our DNS system prevails. So, as I said in the beginning, and repeated it quite a few times during this presentation, we all need to work together, registries and registrars, and of course we all have a joint interest in keeping the system the way that it is. And it will be our job to basically educate other businesses and end users why NTLDs can be useful or essential in the business processes for the brand protection or the identity building. The brands, but ultimately the brands themselves, they must take the choice. They will be charged all the fees. And here we as a group should come up with creative case studies, picking the best examples out from the new top-level domains to demonstrate to other brands what could be done so that this .brands trend is not dying off. We've seen actually, I think near 50% of all .brands have been retired in the meantime, which is something that we all together take responsibility for. We just didn't provide brands with a compelling reason why to have their own top-level domain, and this we must change. And ultimately also ICANN is in charge. ICANN is in a driver's seat. No one else can really define the timeline and the rules of procedure for a next round of new top-level domains. And it has been a very long time. Time to assess the success of the first round has probably been sufficient. And given that it is a stakeholder-based organization, it again then falls back on us to actually drive this process forward and contribute in that multi-stakeholder model that ICANN provides us with. Then, when we look at the underrepresentation of domain names in general, and also NTLDs in the Asia-Pacific market, as I mentioned before, just the number of domain names in existence or registered in the Asia Pacific area is materially under proportionate to the contribution or to the composition of the global population, or also the composition of the global GDP. The question is, why is that? And let's discuss this later together as a group. Is it maybe super apps that dominate many markets in Asia Pacific, where you just have one WeChat and you don't have like 5,000 clones of it living around it? Could be a reason. I have not been brought up here. It's only my second visit to Hong Kong in 6 years. But I'm already looking forward to a discussion whether maybe the super app trend is one of the reasons why the domain market is relatively small in Asia Pacific compared to, for example, the United States, when we just compare population and GDP. So, and then coming to what CentralNIC can do here. So CentralNIC actually operates a series of domain registrar brands. One of them is specifically targeted to the Asia Pacific region, Asia Registry. And at Asia Registry you can actually register every kind of domain name, including TLDs, whether Asia Pacific related or not. And but it's clearly targeted to this market. Then CentralNIC has been, through hard work, managed to achieve the #1 position in operating new top-level domains. And so today we operate, I think, 109 top-level domains in total, and more than every second of the top 20 is on the CentralNIC platform. And in total we manage not far from 50% of all TLDs that are currently in existence. And part of the success is that we've built a very resilient DNS system, which has 100% uptime over the last 27 years, which we basically ensured by having it geographically distributed. Similar like the DNS system has been designed to be unbreakable. And but also for those who don't operate a top-level domain, through our reseller program, CentralNIC Reseller, we make 1,200 domain name or 1,200 different top-level domains available to any kind of registrar in the world in a fully automated fashion, and also the others we can also the other top-level domains we can provide in a fulfillment service. And this actually, why is this helpful? It actually helps other companies to quickly go into other markets. So one of our larger customers is GoDaddy, for example. If they wanted to start to sell domain names from the Central African Republic, no problem. It's one mouse click in the front end, and they can start. No lengthy accreditation processes. So this basically helps any registrar in the world to sell any domain name that they need, and it's a typical problem that every registrar or hosting company has a certain clientele in one country, but still you might occasionally, an Asian registrar might have a registration for European TLD that they need to deliver on, or an American registrar might have a registration for an Asian top-level domain. CentralNIC can make that every hosting company and every registrar in the world can access almost every TLD in existence. And last but not least, this is then completely independent of the TLD. We are also, we believe, the largest, if not then the second largest domain name parking provider. So domain name parking is basically the process where we would put ads on your unused domain names and would then share a part of the revenue, of the advertising revenue that we generate with you, which then helps you to refinance the cost of the domain name until the time that you can actually develop that domain name. And very, very often the process of starting companies starts with ideation. So we maybe start grabbing up 100 different domain names. You can put them into parking, they could make money for you, and then in the end you decide for maybe one brand and then 10 domains around it. And that's what we do with Parking Crew. And you can do that for any NTLD or any CCTLD or other gTLDs that you want. And now I'm getting clear messages that I used up my time and should be respectful and hand over the mic to either Sophia or directly to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. And I really agree with you that you mentioned that in the first round, actually, we see most of the applicants are from Europe and from the American companies. And because we participated in the first round, and there was only half year's awareness time to actually educating the Asian Pacific companies and organizations about new gTLD programs. So I think this time we got enough time, and as a community, as also industry players, we need to work collaboratively, actually, to bring awarenesses also to more APAC companies and organizations. And as ZDNS is participating in a lot of events in different industries in China mainland, we trying to bring awarenesses to the CIOs and to the CMOs and even the CEOs, because they are going to be the decision-making parties, and actually to see whether they participate in the subsequent round of DNS expansions. Okay, that's thank you for the insightful sharing, and then let's welcome the next speakers, Mr. Michael Fleming from GMO Security, Brand Security, and he's going to walk us to the world of brand TLDs and best practices.
Thank you, Sophia. So this is definitely very exciting for me. Again, of course, this is my first time in Hong Kong. Believe it or not, I don't get the opportunity to talk about this in English very often, although I may look the part. I just push this way. Oh, the big button. Oh, right here. Wait, no. Oh, here we go. It's upside down. As it is, I usually do this in Japanese, and so it's quite a pleasure to be able to speak with everybody. It's also the first time I'm able to do this as GMO Brand Security. Some of you might know myself from a company called GMO Rights Consulting, but I would like to explain a little bit about our journey of changing our name to GMO Brand Security, tell you a little bit about our experience, about what we've done in the last round, as well as then going through some of the statistics, what happened, looking at some use cases, and how first-timers that are looking to apply for the second round can think about that. So first of all, it's actually really interesting. A lot of the discussion I heard about this morning really talked about the aspect of trust. Trust within these emerging technologies, the DNS. You just had a session in here that talked about security. And I can't be more excited to tell you about what I think to be the greatest company name in the world, GMO Brand Security. We actually decided to go from supporting brands with rights to delivering security for all brands. Why, you might ask? Last year, GMO Internet Group, who you probably heard about a little bit about, GMO is one of the largest internet conglomerates within Japan. Our foreign brand is under Z.com for you Americans. And last year, we made a huge decision to establish a security division. As such, GMO Rights Consulting decided to commit everything we know to GMO Brand Security. There's a lot in the works that I can't share exactly with you, but I can tell you that new and exciting things are coming out from our company. So joining the GMO Security Division, we also have GlobalSign, who is one of the largest SSL providers in the world, who deliver cryptographic security, as well as GMO Cybersecurity by, this is a little difficult to pronounce in English, but it's Irai. It's Ierai in Japanese, a little bit easier to pronounce. But we deliver holistic security under the slogan of a safe and secure internet for all. So how do we do this? What is brand security, to be exactly? Well, many of you have probably heard about, trademarks, domain names. We need to secure and establish intellectual property rights for brands. Once we have done that, we can actively go online, monitor, and see where the DNS abuse is, where is the brand abuse. After that, of course, you also have to have a holistic strategy, guidelines for operating a brand, and of course, you need to manage all of that data. So, let's talk about new gTLDs. How many of you have heard of a new gTLD? All right, there's a couple of you. And that's even better if you haven't, because I'm actually talking to you today. A new gTLD, my colleague Michael just shared as well. 10 years ago, well, I say 10 years ago because 10 years ago in 2012, we saw the expansion of the internet and now have a lot more TLDs, a lot more extensions, a lot more opportunities to secure a domain name. We have this in .gmo, .shop, and .tokyo. A great example here, and I wish I had a pointer as well, but is our company URL is actually now brandsecurity.gmo. .gmo, a nice 3 letters. It is not what they say in America. This stands for Global Media Online. But it's a very exciting time to be alive. So when we think about the gTLD space, many of you have heard of the legacy TLDs. I call these the .coms, the .nets, the ccTLDs, .jp, .cn. But then we also have these new gTLDs. 10 years. They don't seem so new anymore. All the same, there are plenty of options, .tokyo, .shop, and then a bit more of a niche area called brand TLDs. This is the opportunity I'm focusing on speaking for you today. So what's a brand TLD? Let's think about this in terms of real estate. If you rent an apartment, raise your hand. None of you rent an apartment. All the same, if you rent an apartment within a building, you can think of that in terms of the second level domain. But when we focus on a brand TLD, you can now own the building as well. The possibilities are actually endless. Of course, this chain, we have to think about the hierarchical structure within the domain name system. So for many, a registry is the one that is in charge of the TLD. A registrar is the one that is the agent for the domain names. And then normally, for what most companies have, is the second level domain where you are the registrant. Initially, within the new gTLD program, there were about 1,930 applications. And we just saw this graphic a minute ago, but of course the majority of applications came out of North America and Europe, and 300 out of Asia. I still think that is quite a success, because when I look at success, I don't look at the number of TLDs or the number of domain names, I look at the quality of it. ICANN at that time established several categories such as community TLDs, geo TLDs, IDN TLDs, and then lumped everything else into an other or just a generic TLD category. Thankfully, in the midst of the applications, ICANN was able to establish, or we were able to establish the category of brand TLDs through it was a contractual amendment with ICANN. Currently, there's about 1,241 new gTLDs that are delegated. Of these, about 500 are brand TLDs. That is a significant amount, even though we have lost some within there. But I want to show you a little bit about the elements about what is necessary for running for a TLD. You can kind of think about this as an external position as well as an internal position. Externally, well, first of all, you have to apply for a new gTLD. This is your purpose. You need to just demonstrate your financial capability, and you also need to have the technical aspect. We look at this in the back end. And then there's also the front end, of course. For many, they don't know how to work with ICANN or with how to work with a registrar. This is what the front end will take care of all of this for you. And then most importantly for companies, this is the hard part. It's the internal area. You need to have the infrastructure. You need to have the synergy. Everyone in the company needs to be on the same page when you go into this. You obviously need to have a strategy for how you're going to use it. And this last part is most important. I call it the backing, because most companies that have been successful with utilizing their brand TLD have had a top-down influence. They've had somebody from the chief suite that's been able to support them in utilizing it. So this is, again, just a little bit of my PR. GMO Internet is able to deliver one-stop TLD support. Through GMO Brand Security, we do the application writing, we act as the registrar, and of course, all the necessary front-end management, and of course, the strategy area. Our sister company, GMO Registry, offers all of the necessary technical support. And we do have quite a bit of street cred here. I'm sure some of you have seen some of these brands before. PlayStation, one of my favorites growing up, and Sony, of course. And we've got 40 here and also many more. So now I'm going to take this in a different direction. When you start to think about the possibilities for a brand TLD, most people are probably limited to the aspect of a domain itself, a domain name. And what is a domain name? Usually it's just tied to a website, right? Actually, we are living in exciting times right now. The aspect of blockchain, NFT domains, AI, there's many emerging technologies. What would you do if I told you that you could use the brand TLD to tie to all of these? It's a little bit difficult to think about, but in many of the ways that you can use an NFT domain for blockchain, you can also use a brand TLD with DNS. Right now, the majority of usage is focused on four main areas. There's much usage in strengthening brand power. Many brand TLDs have been able to use their brand in order to increase inner branding. It allows companies to actually have better governance internally. Most companies initially applied just to protect themselves on the top level, so there's the aspect of brand protection. But there is also the added caveat that I have seen some brand TLDs, some of those brands with the brand TLDs that have begun reducing their existing domain name portfolio. And more important than anything is the increased security. When you begin to focus everything and centralize your brand, your online presence towards your brand TLD, it becomes recognized by your end users. And it makes it more difficult for third parties to abuse your brand. So I am a little biased since I'm doing this for many Japanese brand TLDs, and so I'm focusing mainly on those examples. But there's been quite a lot of brands that have been utilizing this for their main corporate site. They've organized a lot of their group company to be directly under their brand TLD. They've launched product sites, new service sites, as well as done a lot of different campaign examples. So just two examples, just two small case studies I wanted to concentrate on. Canon was one of the early adopters as a brand TLD. They changed their main corporate site over to global.canon. And also taken a lot of, I'm not gonna say a lot, but some of the newer companies that they've actually acquired are being structured under a .canon domain, such as in medical.canon. There's also service sites they're developing for image.canon. Sharp is probably one of my favorites. Why? Because it's such a generic name, not only in the sense of being a word, but as well as with the brand. Sharp obviously is a generic name, so it makes it very difficult to acquire the exact match of the domain name that a lot of brands want to do for .com or within ccTLDs. So their guidelines, their actual usage has been very sporadic. However, with .sharp, however, though, they've actually been able to transition a lot of their, sorry, not a lot, but they've actually started developing 9 country sites within Asia, such as jp.sharp. The benefits and opportunities of a brand TLD are endless. You can look at it what those have already done in terms of security, web architecture, better branding, shortened URLs, but you can also look at this as a blank canvas. I always use the example that most brands that got started initially in the early 90s, their current infrastructure is so complex under their past domain names, and the subdomain records, the DNS records they have are in the hundreds to thousands under one domain name. A .brand is a blank canvas. While you may not want to transition everything off of the old canvas, look that we're already 10 years with plenty of usage of new gTLDs. This is an opportunity to build new infrastructure. It's an opportunity to serve as a platform for innovation. So let's talk lastly about how to prepare. Now, There's no promises, but ICANN has said that they're looking towards 2026. I remember a good friend told me that right after Chinese New Year, when we're all sitting in front of our desks, we'll have the opportunity to sit and concentrate on applications. So perhaps Q2 in 2026, although 3 years away, that is still plenty of time to prepare. So how can you prepare internally? The best advice I can give for anybody that's looking to apply for a brand TLD is thinking about the current problems that your brand is facing. There's many ways that a brand TLD can serve as an opportunity to deliver new solutions for your internal issues. Once you've been able to identify the problems and possible solutions, now you're able to look at the business case. And if you have a clear business case, you can start bringing senior leadership on board. Now, externally, it's actually very simple to prepare because you've got great companies just like GMO, as well as CentralNIC, they're friends of ours as well, that are able to deliver the heavy lifting for you when you need to pick an RSP and a registrar. The financial and the corporate documentation is rather simple as well. And when you work with an experienced partner that has plenty of street cred and has done this many times over, it's easy to develop strategy and to write your application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael, for the informative speech. Also give us insights about the brands and the other type of TLD as well. I think GMO is very successful operating also gTLDs. Maybe in another occasion we can talk about that more, because I think there will be more gTLDs also from the APAC region. And I really agree with him on the comments that applying the TLD is easy, but utilizing actually make it worth it, and also make credits in a corporation, that's a very difficult task. And as I also focusing 10 years in industry to helping the ZDNS clients also operating their TLDs, I really agree that needs a lot of collaborative effort also from the organizations to actually make it happen. And I hope during our awareness campaign from ICANN, and also we can bring more cases, more best practices also to the APAC region, and that organization understand and actually how to use a TLD after they applied. So up next is our speakers from CNIC, which is the registry from CNCTLD. Let's welcome Kathy Zhang. He's DNS operator engineering for CNIC, and he will introduce the CNIC's operation, and also from the technical perspective to talk about what's the impacts of DNS expansions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Casey from CNIC. CNIC is NIR of China, and the registry of ccTLD.cn and .zhongguo, which means China in Chinese. It's my honor to speak here, and I'm very glad to share my topic with you. Today, I'm going to talk about operations of .cn. The aim of this presentation is to introduce root server instances in China, operations statistics of .cn, and new gTLD services in CNIC. First, I'd like to introduce the status of root server instances in China. Until December 2022, there are 24 root server Anycast instances in total in China. Half of them are hosted by CNIC and distributed in several provinces in China. CNIC has requested 12 root server instances since 2006. And these 12 instances include 5 distinct identifiers, which are FIGKL. This figure shows that the average round-trip time from monitors in China to the 13 root servers is about 91 milliseconds. And the RTT is in the range of 12 milliseconds to 197 milliseconds. As you can see, the 5 root servers, FIGKL, which have instances in China, have shorter RTT. According to the statistics above, and to achieve the goal of reducing RTT of root DS service, we attempt to request more root server instances in China recent years. And based on current distribution of existing instances, we'd like to request new ones to cover provinces that hasn't gotten an instance yet. For example, the west of China. Another factor to request more is to request more root server identifiers. There are only 5 distinct root server identifiers in China now, and we are trying to request an instance of M root server this year. More distinct root server identifiers will help make less queries to instances outside China, furthermore, less the RTT. Next, I'd like to turn to .cn server instances deployment. Like root DNS servers, .cn also use Anycast technology to deploy instances around the world. .cn have more than 40 instances now, about 50% of which are inside China, which distribute in 14 provinces. The overseas instances cover all of the 5 continents, including 3 countries in Asia, 7 in Europe, 2 in America, 1 in Oceania, and 1 in Africa. In order to provide faster DNS service, we are going to deploy more instances. The 2 main factors that influence the location choice are to cover national internet backbone street points and to cover provinces that has no instances yet. We prefer to choose IDCs with more bandwidth, higher safety level, and better data exchange ability. Besides the IDC's own conditions, located in cities with national internet backbone street points may provide network service of higher quality, speed up the network, and supply more bandwidth. There are 22 such cities in China until April 2023, and we've deployed instances in about 14 of them. Next, we'll try to cover more such cities. Another intent is to lower the network latency of provinces with no instance. During the next 3 years, we'll deploy no less than 10% instances in these provinces. Page 10. Okay. Then I would now like to move on to operation statistics of .cn, concretely the IPv6 services of CNIC. CNIC provides IPv6 DNS services since 2004 and gradually provides SRS, RDDS, and homepage services through IPv6 network. In 2011, about 12 years ago, we only have 3 IPv6 instances in 10, and 2 IPv6 NS address for A and D.DNS.cn. There is only 1 IPv6 domain registered, while the QPH for RDDS and the homepage is very low. With the development of IPv6 during the past years, the IPv6 services of CNIC has changed markedly. We'll attach an IPv6 address to each name server this year and increase the portion of dual stack instances up to 60% this year. Per domain name registration, we have more than 210,000 of domain names that have IPv6 name servers. The access to RDDS and homepage service has increased extremely too. From the registration point of view, the number of and the percentage of IPv6 NS address increased since 2010. We can see there is obvious increment since 2018. And in the right figure, here is an approximate about the increment of IPv6 domain names. The increasing trend is similar. From the queries point of view, here are statistics of queries from more than 2 million IPv6 addresses to .cnds service. As to RR types of IPv6 DS queries of .cn, top 6 are the same as IPv4. The RR type requested most is 4A from IPv6 network, which means name mapping to IPv6 address. While the RR type requested most is A from IPv4 network. This result is reasonable. Both domestic and overseas instances receive IPv6 queries, and there are more domestic IPv6 users for .cn. For the overseas part, most queries are from Asia. The portion reflects the locations of domain name users and the development of IPv6 network to some extent. Last, I'd like to introduce new gTLD services in CNIC briefly. CNIC acts as both registry and backend registry operator of .公司, which means company in Chinese, and .网络, which means network in Chinese. CNIC is also the BRO of .Guangdong, which is the name of Guangdong province in Chinese, and .Foshan, which is the name of the city Foshan in Chinese. So we could provide the 5 critical registry functions as BRO officially since January 2014. There are about 20 DNS service instances used for new gTLDs. And the 3 IDCs in 2 cities are used for the other 4 services, which are SRS, RDDS, data escrow, and DSSEC. Besides BRO, CNIC also acts as a DEA for registry and registrar data. The data are stored in both local and remote data center. CNIC is one of the 3 EBROS tool, which is an emergency service for new gTLD. With TMCH, the above 4 services are essential for new gTLDs, and CNIC support all these services. Finally, I will summarize the topic. Here are 3 main conclusions. First, the number and distribution of root instances has effect on access latency. It's the first step in DNS, so CNIC keeps on trying to request more instances for China. Second, with the development of IPv6 network and its basic requirement of new gTLD application, the upgrade of DNS, SRS, RDDS services, etc. to support IPv6 is necessary. And to prepare for new gTLD's application, a registry could run as a BRO on his own, or find a hosted one to provide these services on behalf of him. The latter choice will save human cost for operation and determines a DEA at the application phase is required too. This is the end of my speech. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Kathy. And so his speech will be delivered virtually, and then he will discuss about the topic expanding TLDs in APAC, what's the opportunities for digital transformations. is technical ready to put Mr. Hosens online?
Hello.
Let's give a few seconds.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Sophia. So I'm going to present my slide first. I think you all can see the slides, right? Hello. Can you just share me that my slide is okay and my voice is okay?
Yes,
Can you
you are
confirm?
fine. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And sorry that I could not make it happen in person. This is Imran Hussain. We are working from Bangladesh as a web hosting company, and our company is EY Host Limited. So today I'm going to sharing some insights about the next opportunity of the APAC region for the gTLDs. So I think my previous speakers already delivered about the TLDs and gTLDs programs, how it's happened. So I will skip these two slides. So we are APAC peoples like who are living in this APAC region and who are doing business and for this global industry, and we are also as an end user. When we talk with this end user, we see there is a lot of opportunity, and it's actually very growing market in here. So I will say that this digital area, APAC is going very well. So it's very rapidly transforming the digital areas. Like if I talk about our country, like from Bangladesh, we see that we are rapidly growing every sector in APAC in digital area. So I would say that the new gTLDs will help us. So for our APAC companies, like it will help us to make our presence online, and we will believe that the new gTLDs program will help us very well to have our own TLDs and own languages. If I say about the population, everyone knows that there is 60% people we live in the in APAC region. So there is a lot of opportunity, and there is a lot of use case here. But unfortunately, the TLDs operation and the TLDs last year, you already seen the previous speakers said that we from the APAC region there was 300 applications was for gTLDs, new gTLDs, but there was a lot of opportunity. But this time I would say we will make something different from APAC. So there is a lot of opportunity and there is unique demands here. So I will go the next opportunity, like financial and business relationship. Like if we say that we are working in same region, so there is lot of financial relationship within this APAC region, and we are actually, when we do some business in like, we are working with, like, if I say some example, like from Bangladesh, we are very closely working with India, China, Singapore. So this region has some good bondings, as like other businesses. Like we do physical products, like that business is growing very well in regionally. So I would say that this gTLDs also help us to make our own relationships. Like if we have our own TLDs, so we can do some better things. And like I will say that the regional relationship for the in terms of the financial connectivity and financial relationship, it will help us very well. So this is very important things, like the linguistic potential. So if we say that English is not a very well spoken language in this APAC region, but still we are using English for all domains. So, but you see that we have many languages that is that we are speaking in in Bangladesh, or like we have Bangla language, but this Bangla language well spoken. Like if we see all other countries, Bengali peoples is living everywhere. So Bangla is very common and popular languages this APAC region. And if we see China and Hindi language, so it's like there is a lot of opportunity here for the language perspectives. So I can see that is the next opportunity for us. Like when we have our own TLDs with our own languages, so it will help us to, like we can gather a lot of untapped market and untapped peoples and communities that are not using the domains. So when they will see that their own languages domain TLDs is available, so they will go for this own languages TLDs. So this has a lot of opportunity for us. So if I say the timeline, so I checked the recent statistics. Like the last ICANN 76 meeting, there was adopted 98 recommendation by ICANN board. So and it's already begun. So and I think the sub-pro implementation team is also helping the ICANN. So it will ready for us very soon to apply for our own gTLDs. So we from our region we will be ready, and we are also from the community. We are helping the ICANN also to ready the next round. So now if I see our preparation. So I already said that we are already engaging the community already from our community, our APAC region, and we are very active, and we are directly helping to the the sub-pro team and ICANN board. So very soon the next TLD will next round will be available for us. So I would request from our region all stakeholders, they should also come to the next. They should apply for the next round gTLDs, and obviously we will get more TLDs for our APAC, and this next round will be very, very helpful for us to get more next TLDs. And I'm attending last few years the ICANN meetings, and I see that APAC peoples are and APAC companies are very active. So this is very good sign for us to have our own TLDs. This is my last slide. So I would like to conclude my expectation and my hope that very soon we will get our own TLDs for our own market. And as a hosting company, we will able to sell the local language TLDs in our own region. And we can make some like the 60% people are living here. So if there is minimum 30%, we can make them all be online. So it will very helpful for us to to make a good digital area, and we can have them also from this way. So I would say that obviously we will be like that will not be the top, but from the APAC region, we will be the have the best application from our APAC side for the next gTLD program. And thank you very much. So if you have any questions, so I think there is next few minutes we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Imran. I think that's after speeches from four experts. Then you might have some questions that want to addressed, and we will have about 20 minutes left to address any question from the audience. And now I will invite all the speakers here, and also Imran, can you stay online? So then we can do a Q&A sections. Sure. And this we need another one. Oh yeah, this for one. Cool. Yeah. Please, Kathy. So, any questions from the audience that that you want to ask the panelists? You can raise your hands. Yes, please.
Hi, John from the AI Foundation for the record. Yes. Thanks everyone for their presentations. So 2 questions. When is your estimate for the next round? I've seen mentions on 2026 Q2 that you were in your slides. How accurate is that? Is it really going to happen on 2026 Q2, or is it just your estimate? And how much do you think is going to be the average bidding for each of one of those new TLDs, the cost for the submission? Because I'm thinking we see a lot of big companies who are going to be bidding, but what about smaller organizations or smaller entrepreneurs who may not have the ability to actually bid for NTLD? What would be your consideration on that regard? Thanks.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so Michael Fleming here. As I kind of posted that on my slides, I can actually say, how confident am I in 2026 Q2? I'm actually very optimistic. However, that is not my estimation. That was actually put out there by ICANN and the last meeting in Washington, D.C., which is actually, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, about 3 weeks ago. And in terms of cost, and you probably are aware, but ICANN actually released that. I think they were saying somewhere between 240 and 275 or so. This is a hefty price tag for a new gTLD, and I understand that a lot of companies out there probably don't see the merit in regard to that cost. However, I can also say that there's a lot of examples of smaller companies such as .wir. Is it, you're the German, right? Am I pronouncing it correctly? .wir.
Yeah.
There's company.
Like us.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies smaller companies out there that you would think probably wouldn't jump at this opportunity, but actually were one of the first innovators with the brand TLD, because although originally back in 2012 it was 180, and again it's a 25,000 yearly cost, these are the same companies that have actually changed over their entire infrastructure to the brand, which for them it's working perfectly in terms of all the aspects that I shared with during my slides.
Right, and just to add to that, I think for a very long time there was the presumption that the application cost would actually come down from $180,000 for the first round. In particular, given that ICANN also had some ideas how to make the application process or the approval process more efficient. But now we see inflation rates in line with many other goods, raising the bar. And of course, in this market, or in this for this type of product, there are two views to it. One is a cost-based approach, basically just recovering your cost. But there might also be a reason to just set a high bar, to not have an inflation of new top-level domains, and just have people being very serious about their plans before they actually submit an application. Last thing here is, if however properly executed, I mean we see that VeriSign as the one public company in the sector has a double-digit billion US dollar valuation. If you would have a really successful project and you could only nibble away a fraction of a percent of that, it's very well worthwhile the $240,000 investment.
Okay, just adding to those two gentlemen's comment. Actually, one thing I believe the ICANN has an applicant support program that will have some criteria to support the potential applicants from the underdeveloped country. And with that criteria will be published with ICANN's before the programs started. And second, it's about it's I talking to some of the companies and organizations we work together, and they seem to also criticize the high bars of the application fee, but and I see that if you're applying for a generic string, if you have a good idea, you can actually have a business. The company I work with the generic screens, most of them are the worst scenarios making events. Actually, they don't lose money. They actually, if you operate operates correctly, and you have a good team, and you can actually make it as a very successful business. Even though if you don't really want to continue with that TLD operations, if you sell to another organizations, you can get the money back. So that's reality, right, in the practice at the moment. Yeah.
I will just add one thing, and it's obvious. No promises, and I can't say, there's only so much I can say, but if there are questions about those who are a little bit scared of the price but are still interested in, speak with me afterwards. GMO has some ideas on making things affordable.
That's good to know.
And maybe two more points to this. So yes, there is an aftermarket for top-level domains. So for example, I'm a partner in a company called ShortDot, which I founded with my friend Lars Jensen, and we've actually acquired 5 brands like .icu, .bond, which was for the Bond University in Australia, and 3 others. And this you can always do, and it will happen. It will continue to happen with existing new top-level domains, and it will probably also happen to new top-level domains being delegated after the second round. The one question that I could not answer now, and I'm not sure whether ICANN has already a position on this, is what kind of conflict resolution there will be if they're conflicting applications.
Yeah.
So in the last round, actually quite a few people made much more money from auctioning off the applications than the buyer made from later operating them. And I think the availability for profit conflict resolution will be one of the main factors that will determine whether there will be what the total number of applications will be in the second round.
Yeah, that's just one of the topics that's discussed heavily in the community, which is dragging on the timeline. And then we really hope that we can collaborate as a youth community to bring it forward. And I really like to see it before 2012, next year maybe, if that's possible.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be awesome. All right. I hope that answered your questions. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Do we have more hand raised for questions? Nope. Okay. I have actually one question. Yeah. So Accentronic is based in Europe and based in UK, and also have a global outreach in different regions. And Gmode is focusing Japan and APAC, Asia, and also have other. And ZDNS is focusing in China, and we help a lot of Chinese company to participate in the second round. So can you maybe use a one word, 2 words, and to say what would be the best demands from your region? What will be the demands from your region in terms of the company that applies, and also in terms of strings? The most you see for requests from your customers. Yeah. What will be the trends for the next round, in general speaking? Yeah, if you could start, Mick.
Well, given that I sit next to you, Sophia, I'll start. So, first of all, Accentronic is a completely global business with offices from New Zealand to the Canadian West Coast, if I just follow the sun. So we don't really have a very strong geographical focus. 42% of our revenue comes from the United States, even though we have most of the staff in Europe. So applicants from any country in the world will be eligible. We will be happy to help any customer wherever they have their registered office. And I think the creativity for strings for next round will hopefully be limitless, just like it has been in the last round. And as we know, there's still enough space. So there are 17,767, I think, 3-letter combinations only. Only 70 out of these have been registered in the first round, which means that more than 99% are still available for the second round. And then there's, of course, even more combinations with longer strings. So the sky is the limit.
Okay.
Thank you, Sophia, for the question. It's interesting, as Michael's said, Centralnik is, as far as the sun sets, and myself from the land of the rising sun itself, as well as us and our many partners throughout Asia. It's a funny question when thinking about it. The brands that I have spoken with are probably brands many of you haven't even heard of that are actually interested in a brand TLD for the next round. And the reason being is what I was sharing with you earlier, specifically because much of the real estate, or much of the prime real estate, such as in .com or even .net, or the more well-known top-level extensions, has already been taken. And in their mind, we're focusing on the future. With how many of you heard about ChatGPT a year ago?
I think everybody.
No, a year ago.
Oh, a year ago.
A year ago, nobody.
Nobody.
There's I'm sure a few of you, but in that time alone, ChatGPT has become almost a household name, and there were many doubters that the next round of the new gTLDs, they're not going to be successful. Well, in terms of the actual generic TLDs, that might be the case, but when we look at it the aspect of brands, 10 years is just a speck within the history. It's within the future of that we're seeing, and change can happen overnight. So a lot of the demand that I see is from newer companies, and let's think about it in terms of blockchain. There's been a lot of NFT domains that have come from providers such as Unstoppable, Handshake, and this is competing space that really is a big question of what ICANN is going to do for the next round. One of the questions I've always had is, how will these providers look at the next round, the next opportunity to apply for new gTLDs? Will they be securing the extensions or the top-level domains that they've created within their blockchain space? It's going to be an interesting round that we're going to be seeing, again, hopefully before 2026, but if ICANN is willing to commit to that, maybe by 2026.
Just because you mentioned ChatGPT, it's an excellent example why we need companies like GMO Brand Services or our brand shelter, because many of you might not know that actually ChatGPT.com is not owned by OpenAI, but by a company in Puerto Rico who was just quicker than them than registering. So just remember, the right process is first register your domain name, then register the trademark, then launch your product. No changes to that rule.
And adding to Michael's point, you know, the AI.com is trading for over $11 billion, right? So if you look at that, actually, interestingly, I use a lot in different occasions when I talk to the Chinese companies. And then if they ask questions, what's the ROI? I would tell them, then what's the ROI on AI.com then? You know, if you're investing on the TLD and you have the opportunity to utilize all the second-level domains freely, and in Chinese we said that you realize the freedom of domains, right? That's the Chinese saying, we realize the freedom of everything. And that actually, you know, organizations actually understand that easily. And then there's another thing I want to say. When I talk to the outsiders from the industry, I try to make it use a language that, you know, it's just numbers and brands and that the language they can understand. And we are so much into our domain world that we use a lot of acronyms and we use a lot of terms that, you know, explaining ICANNs, the industry. But what go down to the earth, what down to the bottom is that we need to understand what matters for organizations to actually make them to apply for TLDs, and that we need to, you know, understand their needs, their requirements, and what's the pain in their organizations, and actually to make the awareness more efficient and to send a message out. Yeah. All right. Do you have more comments from Kathy and Imran on that question? On my questions, what did you see the trend for the next round? And anything you want to add? Maybe from perspective from India?
I just missed. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, my question is, can you summarize on, you know, use one or two sentences to describe what would be the trends for the next round from your region?
Obviously, there is few TLDs like I think I should not disclose, but I got few like words that might be comes in the next round. It's like the national things, like something about the national for like Bangladeshi, and maybe it would be the Indian. So that the keyword is like the national words would be the next round TLDs from our region. I already got few recommendations from few companies and few person already they're talking about, and they are actually preparing themselves for the next round.
Okay. Thank you.
And that obviously local language also. They're planning to having the TLDs in English and the local language.
Yes, the IDNs matters a lot
Yes.
in the second round. And we'll see more IDNs, more people using their own language just go online. If not anything adding from Kathy, that I will, the event has come to the end. And thank you for being us today in these discussions. I think we get a more comprehensive understanding of the development of the very important subject of the domain industry. And I would like to thank everybody for being here, and thank ICANN.org and HK IRC for co-hosting the events to give us opportunity to get together and exchange our perspective. And we thank for all the people participating and look forward to our next reunion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.